Hey guys. Um, all right, let's dive in. So last week we chatted about phasing out habits that are no longer serving us and replacing them with habits that will move us forward. This week, I want to chat about environment and its influence on our habits. So we chatted a little bit about environment a few weeks ago and how important it is to ensure that our environment is serving our goals and who we're aiming to be. But now we're going to talk about environment again because it's so crucial, but its effect on our habits. Okay, so let's start with the definition of a habit. So again, Joe Dispenza defines a habit as this. He says a habit is a redundant set of automatic, unconscious thoughts, behavior, and emotions that's acquired through repetition. A habit is when you've done things so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your mind. So this means that our habits are things that we do without needing conscious brain power. Our body just knows what we need to do and it puts our mind in power saving mode. So I've used the example of a shower, right? You get in the shower and your body just knows which parts to wash first, right? Your brain doesn't need to tell your body, okay, get under the water, get your hair wet, get your body wet. Okay, step out of the water, reach for the shampoo, lather the shampoo, wash your hair. Your brain doesn't have to tell your body that. It just does it because you've done it so many times that your brain is no longer needed. Okay. So habits are triggered by cues. For example, you walk into a room, cookies are out on the table, and even though you're working on creating healthy eating habits, your habits and environment are telling you now to eat those cookies, right? So even though you know that cookies are not going to be serving you, you walk in, you see everybody eating cookies, the cookies look so good, they smell good. Your environment is now giving you that cue to reach for that cookie. So James Clear wrote in his book, I love this book, Atomic Habits, he wrote that environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. I'll say that again. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. So I found this to be such a powerful message because our environment can have such a powerful effect on us as human beings. And most of the time, we don't even notice it, right? Think about it. How often do you feel pumped up and energetic? Then you walk into a room or a space and you can literally feel the energy being sucked out of you. I know that I can pinpoint those environments, right? Like I'm feeling high energy and pumped up after study. And then I get to a certain space or certain people are around me and I'm like, I can literally feel my battery draining. It's like I get there, I'm like, yeah, things are gonna be great. And then it's like, whew, right? That energy is just being sucked out of me. That's environment. Or you're trying to be less gossipy because that's what you've told yourself. You know what? I notice that I'm getting gossipy. I notice that this isn't helping me. This isn't good. So I'm gonna try and cut back on this one. I'm going to because it's not me. But as soon as you're surrounded by a certain group of people, you don't even realize that you're gossiping again. There are so many examples that I can name, and this is without judgment on ourselves or others, right? So don't judge yourself, don't judge others. When we start growing our own awareness, we will start noticing things like this. And it's important to remember that we are always doing the best we can with our current level of awareness, right? So be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up about it. We're growing, and that means that things aren't going to be the same anymore. Okay. So in his book, James Clear uses an example of a cafeteria to break down the power of our environment. Okay. And instead of trying to paraphrase it, I just decided that I was going to read you the little piece that he's writing about, or that he talks about. Okay. So in his book, in chapter 6, he talks about Anne Thorndike, and she was a primary care physician at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, and she had a crazy idea. She believed she could improve the eating habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors without changing their willpower or motivation in the slightest way. In fact, she didn't plan on talking to them at all. Thorndike and her colleagues designed a 6-month study to alter the choice architecture of the hospital cafeteria. They started by changing how drinks were arranged in the room. Originally, the refrigerators located next to the cash registers in the cafeteria were filled with only soda. The researchers added water as an option to each one. Additionally, they placed baskets of bottled water next to the food stations throughout the room. Soda was still in the primary refrigerators, but water was now available at all drink locations. Over the next 3 months, the number of soda sales at the hospitals dropped by 11.4%. Meanwhile, sales of bottled water increased by 25.8%. They made similar adjustments and saw similar results with the food in the cafeteria. Nobody had said a word to anyone eating there. So they didn't tell anybody what was going on. They just shifted the way the environment was laid out. And here, I don't know if you'll be able to see. So here they kind of showed, so here, like the gray pieces were where the water was, right? So in the cafeteria, there weren't very much of it. But after, they had water stations, and water was available at multiple places, right? So now they had shifted the environment. They had changed how easy products, in this case, bottled water, was attainable. So now, without even saying anything, the environment was now encouraging people to buy water, right? So we tend to choose products not because of what they are, but because of where they are. So that's what they did in this cafeteria. The bottled water was always there. It was just not convenient, right? So when they started adding it in various touch points in the cafeteria, well, now it became easier, and those queues were more often, right? Those queues were everywhere. So it made it easier. And an example that I thought of in my own life is like, I eat healthier or I eat less when I have to pack a lunch and go to a workplace, right? So now that we're doing a lot of stuff online and a lot of places have been virtual and in their own homes for a while, they don't necessarily pack a lunch and go to a workplace. But when you pack a lunch, right, you tend to eat healthier once you get there, because you packed your lunch. When you packed your lunch, you may have been your better self, right? You may have had your good intentions in mind. Oh, I know I want to eat healthier, so today, so for tomorrow, I'm going to pack myself a salad for lunch instead of grabbing those leftovers. I'm going to grab some yogurt for a snack instead of that bag of chips in the morning, right? You're packing, and I always suggest that you pack your lunch the day before when you're not hungry and when you're not in a rush, because you're going to keep those good intentions in mind. And that's what we do. I pack my lunch and my kids' lunch, and the whole lunchbox goes right in the fridge, right? So in the morning, we literally grab the lunchbox, grab our water, our bottle of water, and off we go. So that my good intentions are present in my lunchbox. So usually you pack according to the person you want to be the next day, right? And in my case, that's what I do. I pack my lunch the day before with the intention of being who I want to be the next day. So I set up my habits for that next day, right? And it can go in the opposite direction. If you have a bag of chips or chocolates in your desk drawer, and every time you feel your tension or stress levels rising, you reach in that drawer for a snack, you have unintentionally maybe set yourself up for those habits. Now, going back to last week's chat together, we can't just eliminate that habit. We need to replace it, right? So I can't just take out that bag of chips or those munchies or the candy, the chocolates from my drawer, because when I reach in that drawer, I'm going to want something. And if I don't find it there, I'm probably going to go find a coworker who I know is going to have it. So we can't just eliminate a habit. So maybe your desk drawer now holds a bag of trail mix. Maybe it holds some granola bites or even nuts if your workplace allows it. So bag of cashews, almonds, something else. So you still have that habit of reaching in that drawer for something to snack on. But now you've shifted it to one that was not, like you shifted it from one that was not serving your body to one that is. Okay, so you're setting up your environment. Or if you aren't drinking enough water, but yet you never have a bottle of water with you, right? So something that what I notice is sometimes I will get home and I haven't touched my water bottle. That means that I've gone all day without drinking any water because my water bottle maybe stayed in the pouch on the side of the backpack, right? So now when I get to work, I automatically grab my water bottle and I put it on my desk because now I see it. Now it's a cue. When I sit down at my desk, or if I'm coming back to grab something in between classes or whatever it is, my water bottle is there. It's staring me in the face. It's my cue. But if I don't see it, I won't be attracted to it because I'm not seeing it. I'm not getting the cue to reach for it. So our habits are shaped by the systems in our lives. We need to remember that we have the power to decide and implement the systems that will give us the results that we want. Everything is run by systems. And we need to remember that we have the power to decide the systems according to what we want to achieve. If I want to release weight, then I'm going to need to replace the habit of munching on chips with munching on almonds, right? Or instead of having cookies, I will have fruit. So I'm not just eliminating, I am replacing according to who I want to be, who I want to become, the results that I want. So again, James Clear, he wrote, a small change in what you can see can lead to a big shift in what you do. As a result, you can imagine how important it is to live and work in environments that are filled with productive cues and devoid of unproductive ones. So it's all about setting up your environment to give you the cues that you need for the good habits. But you need to actually take conscious, like you need to be aware of your environment. You need to be aware of what you're trying to get as a result so that you can put in place the systems to help you. Right? So you all need, like you need to start with an actual check-in, a real check-in with yourself, your environment, your space, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, so that you can determine, okay, this is where I need to be, this is where I want to go. Well, how do I get there? I need to shift habits, I need to shift the environment, I need to, you need to make the changes to actually get there. So again, as an example, like I am a complete organization nerd. I'll admit it. I'm an organization nerd. I'm good with it. And I have the ability, the talent, I guess, to see things and the way that they need to be placed to be effective, neat, and tidy. So I see chaos. Somebody else may just see a pile of things and they don't know how to get it organized. I see it the way it needs to be. Right? I see it. So I love baskets and containers because that to me keeps things organized. There's an excess and then it just becomes another world of chaos, but I see the way that things need to be. So when my space is not in the order that I need it to be, these cues trigger the same in myself and my own work habits. So if my environment is messy, cluttered, and things are everywhere, then that's how I'm going to feel and that's how I'm going to work. My work is going to be scattered. I won't be able to focus. I'm going to be just jumping from one thing to another, right? So I know that this is how it goes. Therefore, I know that I need to keep my environment in a certain way, right? So if I think back to work, last September, I was in a new space that I was sharing with two other people. And we also had a space that people just tended to dump a lot of school supplies, books, resources that they just didn't need. We had a few shelves here and there, buckets, and people just tended to kind of dump everything that they didn't want in that space, right? Well, there were shelves upon shelves of containers with books, and every single time I walked into that space, even though my own personal desk, my own personal space was well organized, had all its containers, its labels, and everything had a place, because I had to look at this disorganized chaos, I felt my energy shift every single time I walked in. Right? My environment wasn't set up for my own personal success because that's not how I work. And even though it wasn't my own stuff, I had to look at this space all the time. So it didn't take me very long to move towards organizing the space because I needed that space to be fixed so that I could feel better, so that I could feel productive, because my environment wasn't conducive to how I wanted it to be. And once it was done, and even now, because I'm in that same space, I walk into that space and it brings a certain level of calmness and order. Because there are containers, they are well labeled, everything is organized, everything has a place. And I joke about it being like, well, a little touch of OCD, and maybe it is. But for me, like, we become a product of the environment we live in. And my environment, now that it is organized, it has a place, it's neat, it's tidy, it's productive. Now I can be like that, right? And so we don't always have control over our environment, especially if we're sharing a workspace with others, or maybe your workplace doesn't seem to allow much room for change when it comes to like the physical space you're in. But in these cases, it's important to focus on the things you can control in your space. So maybe you have keywords written on Post-its in front of you. I had Post-its everywhere for a while, just with keywords. Somebody else that would sit there didn't really know what it meant because it was out of context for them. But for me, it meant something. For me, it was a cue. For me, it triggered a habit. Maybe you have an object that triggers a positive thought in your mind. So again, for example, I was feeling stuck a few weeks ago. I felt like My work environment wasn't allowing me the space to grow. And I took a pair of scissors out of my pencil holder and I laid them out on my desk neatly and in an orderly way. But this to me represented the decision I had made that morning to cut the rope that was holding me back. So that day, every time I saw my scissors, it was my physical cue that triggered that thought in my mind. So I created a habit. I set up the habit to trigger thoughts. So ask yourself, how's your environment set up? Is it currently set up for your success or for setbacks? And setbacks, it's important to know that setbacks are not failures. You only fail when you give up. So keep trying different things until you find something that sticks. We need to remember that what works for one person doesn't mean that it will work for everybody, right? So one strategy to keep organized works for one, but not for me, right? Habits are sometimes programmed in us by generations and generations. So with that in mind, we can't expect to reprogram ourselves in a day. I have been actively growing my own awareness and working towards reaching Mel Goal Achieved for over a year now, and I'm still learning. I'm still experiencing setbacks. But I've also learned to be kind to myself. It's a journey. It's going to take time, right? So your call to action this week is this. Take a moment to look at your environment this week. Where do you spend most of your time? Are there things that are just driving you bonkers? Take that as your hints. Is there a bag of not so good goodies in your drawer? And be honest with yourself, right? You can't achieve or reach your goals if you're not being honest. Is each environment producing habits that bring out your best self? And again, don't beat yourself up about it. You're doing the best that you can with your current level of awareness. Take note of what you're seeing. How are you feeling? What your gut is telling you need to shift. So I know when my workspace here at home needs a shift. I know when I need to take a few minutes to kind of put things back in their place because my gut is telling me when I walk into the space, I feel the right. And that's not how I set up my space to be. But I take that as my hint. Okay, Mel, you need to take a few minutes. You need to like refocus and like maybe my whiteboard in front of me is being too cluttered and needs kind of like a makeover, right? Just take a look. Where are you spending your time? If you're working from home, what's the environment around you look like? How is it making you feel? Okay. And then I encourage you to sit in silence, shower, just for a few minutes, and imagine if that space was productive, positive, and bringing out your best self. What would it look like? So let's say I take my office space, okay? And it's driving me crazy. I walk in and I feel cluttered and I feel scattered and I'm not concentrating and I'm unfocused. Okay. If I sit here, close my eyes for a few minutes and imagine what it would look like, right? So I'm just sitting here, close my eyes because I don't want to see the clutter. What can I see? Okay, well, I can see, my books that I study over on this side because that's where they tend to always be in a pile. But if they're in a basket, I'll be able to pull them out easy, put them away. Okay, cool. On this side, what do I have? Where are my pens? Where are my pencils? Where do I tend to like just place them? And for me, it was always on this side on the desk. So what did I do? I got a container and they're there. And they sit on the side where I tend to just drop them, right? Where are my notebooks? Okay, well, my notebooks, I always tend to put them on this side, so I've got a basket with my notebooks in it, right? So what would it look like? And now comes the fun part. Decide to change it and do it. So again, your mind may have just went, okay, easier said than done, Mel. Tried it, never lasts. And I know this because my mind went there. Not necessarily with my physical space, but with noticing the effect of my environment. But there's one little yet huge difference this time. Okay? I am here for you. So this time, when you decide that you want to change the way that you think about your environment, when you want to change and shift those habits, and you want to head towards your goals, the difference this time is that I am here for you. I am here to coach you through these decisions, I'm here to coach you through the shifts to help you get the life that you desire. And all you have to do is decide that you want the change and then reach out and book a call with me. The rest we do together. All right? So let me help you so that together we can create order in your mind and in your life. I love you.